So before we get into this charity and the strategy, to give our listeners an insight into what My Legal Club does and how it could help them then.
So it's quite ironic, really. My lecturers at uni would laugh that I'm involved in the conveyancing space because you could break the spine on my book when we were doing the exams. I still passed them all, I must say.
Good memory.
We just felt there was a gap in the market that we could try and fulfill. And this comes from my background in working with introducers and private equity operations as well that were involved in panel management, but not in conveyancing. And in terms of how we can help, you have brokers and estate agents building rapport with individual fee earners, let's say at local firms, but they probably don't have all of the technological benefits. That firm can't deal with necessarily every lender. That firm might be not the best for every single type of case. So they might be awesome at purchase and sale, but they might not want to do cashback remo, or they might not be able to do limited company buy-to-let, or they might not be able to help you with bridging. At the same point in time, and I won't name them, there are other portals or panels that maybe have a reputation sometimes as trying to drive volume, of being more of a SaaS type business, of using factory type firms where you might get better pricing, you might get a beauty parade of options, but maybe the service standard isn't there and you haven't got quite the same leverage and you don't have quite the same rapport ultimately within that. So what we wanted to do was just fit a model in the middle of that to try and create the best of both worlds for those people who want to try and get the best of both worlds. So we wanted to create something that is very much service driven. And if you reverse engineer this, and from a solicitor point of view, you want to have a caseload that enables you to deliver a 5-star job. I could get you Kevin a QC, but there is a point in time where he has too big a caseload to perform. Yeah. So ultimately, whether you're using a local firm, you could have the best fee earner in the world. It could be your best mate in the playground. But if the senior partner decides to sack Valerie and give half of her cases to your mate is not going to deliver the same service standards as you once did, because it's bordering on impossible. So because of my experience, we know that those things are possible and likely to happen. So as best as we can, we try and contractually tie the law firms in to those things to try and stop those things from happening. So you also need to have a fee earner that is not new to the firm. And this might be just me being Ben. We used to have a very bad hit rate on recruitment. I think there's a lot of law firms that struggle to recruit fee earners from elsewhere. They've been programmed by another firm. Everyone works a bit differently, might have some bad habits, and it's really hard to iron some of them out and get them working the way you want them to work. Sometimes it's much better to bring trainee solicitors in and teach them from scratch. And you get a much better hit rate with that in a lot of firms. So something we do is we try and pre-vet the fee earners. We interview a lot of them, and we have a pretty tight SLA, which is the same as what we had in our law firms. So things like non-urgent emails from clients or brokers would have to be dealt with between 0 and 16 working hours. You'd expect 90% of that to be 0 to 8 hours. And then there's no grey area if a broker or a client, and typically it would be a client going to a broker saying, you've recommended me to this law firm, they never get back to me. And that's really unfair on a broker. Because for law firms to generate this work online, it would cost them a fortune to probably get a successful purchase or sale case through pay-per-click. Probably would cost them 3 to 4, maybe even 500 quid upfront capital. So for a broker to recommend that firm, get a case in without the law firm outlaying any upfront capital, like that's a big win for the law firm. Like that's extremely valuable. But that broker's acting as the BDM for that law firm. They're the one recommending them to the client. Brokers get about 72%-ish of their business from word of mouth. Like they're taking a big risk in terms of doing that. And I don't think everyone properly respects the risk that the brokers are taking. And the
by referring,
that gives them. So it's really important to us that we have that SLA in place so that, thank God, it's very rare that this happened. But if a client says to a broker, this law firm you recommended aren't coming back to me, the broker can just email, introduce them to us. We say, look, we look after everything for the broker. We're the ones that put the recommendations forward. Send us your chronology of emails.
Right,
This
and
is the
we'll
agreement
sort it
that we have
out.
with the law firms. Are they responding to you within 0 to 16 hours, or ideally 0 to 8 working hours, or are they not? And there's no grey area ultimately. The law firms have signed that because either, look, things can happen and one-offs everyone would forgive. But ultimately, you've either got someone incapable or you've got someone with too big a caseload. So we try and remove any fee earners that are incapable and make sure we're only working with the mother-in-law test. So whenever I'm interviewing senior partners, I say, if you want to work with my legal club, you can only put fee earners forward that we interview that you would give the mother-in-law's case to.
Right, okay. That's a great.
There's a lot of fee earners and a lot of firms that even the senior partners wouldn't give. And
Right,
it might be that they're technically brilliant, but customer service poor. There are other people that can be customer service amazing, but not necessarily technically brilliant. So we want teams that are ideally a bit of both. And then it is trying to manage the service. So we take a bit of a different approach to updates. I sympathize with the legal profession because I was taught wrong and I taught people wrong. And we were always taught that an update, we should tell Chris when something's happened. But actually, that's nonsense, because if I tell Chris that searches have come in, well, I'm sending out a search report anyway, so everyone knows. If I'm telling Chris that a mortgage offer's come in, I'm sending out a mortgage deed, so everyone knows. Really what an update is, in my view, is I want to put in bright flashing lights that I'm on it, that we're not stalling it. I want you to know where the lock is on this, and there might not even be an issue, but I want you to know what we need and from where. And it stops the paranoia setting in, especially with clients. You know, they might be buying a house, first-time buyers, whatever, extremely stressful, not gone through the process before. Brokers and estate agents, I think, probably have all had bad experiences in conveyancing somewhere down the line. So you're once bitten, twice shy, rightly, in that regard. So something we do contractually is during the week, we secure that information on every case to say, not just what's happened, but what's outstanding.
Where's the lock?
From
like
whom?
That.
Are there any issues? So as an example, our approach to updates contractually is a bit different, where, say, Chris, you've got 30 cases with us. You might be able to log in and go, right, I've got some clients that haven't returned paperwork. On some of them, it's the other side, are just not replying to inquiries. I won't insert name of firm, but it might be a firm that has a reputation. You all know who they are. So therefore, you can pass on to the estate agents, listen, our guys are chasing, they're not getting a response.
Go and deal with them yourself. Yeah.
It could be, look, searches aren't back, the ETA on it's another 10 days. It might be we're dealing with a management company.
So it's keeping everybody up to date then, isn't it? It's that communication, isn't it? And like you say, just making sure everybody knows where they stand. And it's what brokers are crying out for at the minute. So where's the best place for people to get in touch with you if they want to discuss that platform and that bit of software?
So you can drop us an email into info@mylegalclub.co.uk, or if you want to go on the My Legal Club website, we have all the testimonials and full part of the website and for the conveyancing portal for estate agents, brokers on mylegalclub.co.uk. And if you go on themortgagebrokerclub.co.uk, you can also access it there and register there too on themortgagebrokerclub.co.uk.